Hello, and welcome to healthyhouseplants.com, where we tell you all about gardening in the great indoors. Today, we're going to talk about creating a fairy garden for the indoors, so an indoor fairy garden. And I'll be planting it and also decorating it and accessorizing it. I am the co-author of this book here, Fairy Gardening, Creating a Magical Miniature Garden. And it has been a bestseller for the past several years. The book primarily talks about growing outdoors, but there's a lot of techniques you can use for indoors as well. So today, specifically growing an indoor fairy garden. So the first thing you want to think about when you're growing an indoor fairy garden, when you're going to create one, is your theme. Because your theme is going to dictate what sorts of accessories you're going to have, what sort of plants you're going to have, what sort of colors in your whole scheme, even things like what you're going to use for pathways. For instance, here I have some really nice miniature shells there that can be used in a pathway. So there's a lot of different variables to consider. So themes also will help dictate what sort of the scene you're going to create in your garden. So for instance, if you were doing an indoor garden for a little girl, you would do it a little bit different than you would do for a little boy, or say you're doing it for a baby shower. It would depend on the theme, perhaps even of the baby shower itself. So today I decided, so I'm going to show you some different ideas and show you what I decided on. So the other thing is, when you are choosing all of your accessories, because it really does start with the accessories, you want to first of all come up with a theme and make it cohesive in terms of the color scheme. Okay, so for instance, this is very pink, right? Okay, so if we were to put this with another fairy, say we decide we just love this little table, flower table. This one, it's okay. This one, it's okay too. Doesn't excite me that much. Now this one is very nice because you've got some pink with her, and also even the shape of her wings simulates the shape of the flower. So there's a lot of parallels there. So that does look very nice together. Okay, so another thing too, if you're going to be putting in fencing, which is very nice because it does really make it look like a little miniature wonderland, then the same holds true. This fencing would actually go with either one, with her here, because there's brown in her hair, there's white in the horse. Now the fun thing about making these indoor fairy gardens is you get to really go back to childhood. You get to have fun thinking about what are the stories, and we're going to talk about story a little bit more in a minute. What's the story happening here? What's happening here? You can literally get lost in an indoor fairy garden for an hour or more and forget even all your troubles, go away because you're having such a great time. So, and who better to hang out with than the fairies? So I am leaning today, now this is a very nice fairy like we mentioned. She's really pretty. A nice place to get fairies is on fairygardenexpert.net, which is also where you can get a copy of the book. You can also get a copy of the book on healthyhouseplants.com in the store too. So I like her. Some of these little ones are very pretty too, but I'm really leaning toward this little fairy. And one of the nice things about this fairy too is with every indoor fairy garden that you make, you want to create a focal point. And she is the perfect focal point. So the focal point would be something that's eye-catching, that the eye would go to, that's obviously pretty, that's decorative, and here she is. She's perfect. So the first thing you want to do when you're setting up your fairy garden is place the focal point in a focal area. And a lot of times if you put it, you can put it towards the back. So that just gives you an idea. However, I would suggest planting first, but I'm setting her here so we can figure out where to put the plants next. Now, the plants, another reason why I chose her with her pink, and also going to be using the pink table, is because I am using, in this fairy garden, pink polka dot plant. And this is a great plant for indoor growing. As long as you keep it pinched back, it will stay mounded. It will stay nice and colorful and bright. It needs a medium bright light, so you don't even need extra lights unless you have a very dim area. Then you would need to use some supplemental full spectrum lighting. So we see this grows really well with her. Now, another thing about the plants, there aren't as many plants to put in indoor fairy garden as there are outdoors. There's many more for outdoors because many of them need full sun. However, there are a few. You can also use mini African violets. You can use mini kalanchoe, although just so you know, mini kalanchoe will, after a time, be replaced. Selaginella moss is very nice. There's also some mini sedums, and there also are some small ivies, and there are a few other plants, especially ones that you would use in aquarium growing. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to figure out where we would like these plants and how many of these plants we would like. Now, you can see, another thing to keep in mind is this. All of this is very cute. It would be wonderful to be able to include all of this. However, if I were to do that today, it would be very overloaded. It's like going into, think about it as like you're decorating a room. If you go into, you have all this furniture that you love and all these knickknacks and all these plants and all this and that, and you cram it all into one room, it's overwhelming, and you can't even, there's no focal point because it's just a big mess. So that being said, you don't want to overdo accessories or plants. So what you want to do then is be more judicious when you're choosing. And what would you do with the rest of these? Well, you make another fairy garden. Also, the choice of pot. This is a low profile pot. Always make sure whatever you use has drainage holes. You can use all different kinds of containers as long as that they have drainage holes. And you remember to protect your floors and your carpeting as well with something underneath. Now, I like the low profile too because you are able to see the scene much better than if it was a higher pot. Also, these are small plants, so you don't want a lot of excess moisture in terms of wet soil because that can make the plants get root rot. So this is perfect. I also like for the indoor growing, just to make sure that they don't get too moist, is a terracotta because terracotta breathes, and so it dries out the quickest, and you're much less likely to kill the plants. And this is a really good choice if you're going to be doing succulents like sedums. Okay, so now we're going to, I think I want to do, I'm going to try, put her here again. I think these two flanking her works really well. So we're going to plant these two, pick out the best two out of the bunch. I like this one, has a nice rounded shape to it, as does this one. They're all pretty good, but you can also get these little pink polka dot plants on the website in the store, the Healthy Houseplants store. Okay, so I'm going to plant. Now I put in here soil that is moistened already so that when I water later, it doesn't sink and throw off my whole design scheme. I have put in it some of our houseplant food so that the plants will be nice and healthy. You don't want to, however, over-fertilize indoor fairy garden because you don't want the plants to grow too quickly because then they will dwarf the fairies. And that's a very important thing to consider. There's a lot of plants that are cute. It's like puppies. They're very cute when you first plant them, but then they grow really big and they will be dwarfing your fairies. And that could be fine if you're trying to create kind of like the Jolly Green Giant and plants with the little fairy, but otherwise you want to keep it proportional in scale. That's another reason why I really like her, because she is taller too on her horse. So we want to push her in a little bit. Now I want to position this. But first, before we do that, I want to decide if I'm going to use any fencing. So I'm going to try some fencing, and I think with these two plants, this fencing is going to look fabulous around each of these plants. You want to push it in. That's another good reason to have the soil moist already, is that things will stick when you go to put them in. And this fencing is nice because you can shape it as you need. There we go with that. Okay. Now, as I mentioned, we don't want too much going on. There are plenty of options here, as you can see. I'm going to be putting that in after I put the gravel pathway in, but there's other things you can use. These are little pieces of tile. They make very nice stepping stones and that sort of thing. I'm not going to choose this because the color tones aren't the same as here, but I'm just showing you that. The shells are really, like I mentioned, a very neat addition, but I don't feel that this is a beach scene. I am thinking of this as more of a magical fairy garden, and you know, she is on her unicorn, so she's getting ready to take flight on her unicorn magical journey. However, she does need a friend to talk to, because one of the things you want to keep in mind when you are doing an indoor fairy garden or any fairy garden is that you tell a story. So, who could she be talking to? Well, she could be talking to a little birdie. And I do have a few little birdies here. Also, I even have this, which has some similar color tones and a bird on top. So we could have her talking to this bird, or we could have her talking to her fairy godmother, who is talking to her about how and what is going to happen on her journey and how she's going to get on her journey with her unicorn. So in that case, we would put her right here and have her talking to her. Now, if we had her over here looking out, you can see it would be a whole different story. Maybe the story is that she doesn't know where her fairy godmother is to tell her about her unicorn journey. But here she is, and she's having her crystal ball. So we're going to put her here. But first, we're going to fill in. Now, there's gravel. You can get all kinds of gravel, browns and whites, and this is a really nice green. And it does bring out some of the colors. You can also use marbles. I like to use those as well. Those do a really good job. If I had a pink marble, I might go for it more than this green, but this green is very eye-catching, and that's another nice thing about having something that's eye-catching. It brings the eye to your indoor fairy garden when people come to visit. So you want to fill it in. Now, another thing too that I could do, which I may change now, and have her talking to her little fairy friend. The fairy friend does have a little green in there. So you see how that matches. So the nice thing is, like any decorating, you can change your mind as you go along. So I think I have changed to her. So now I'm going to fill this in. So you can fill in all the blank spaces. Another thing you can use is moss. You can use moss to fill in as well. I'm not going to do that right now because we're going to set her down for a minute, because I do like the green look. And then I'm going to do it a little more sparse in here. So it's all a matter. There's really no wrong way to build a fairy garden at all. And another thing you can consider, if you want things to be, you can put stakes on the bottom of things. So like this little girl, she does have a stake, so she will stay nice here. So she's going to be right here on the path. Then we have the star of the show here. So we're going to turn her so she's actually looking at her little fairy friend who's running in to tell her all about what to expect in fairyland when she goes there on her unicorn. All right, now, anything else that we could do? So we could add, we're going to add the table. So I think that right here is a very good addition. Now, if we want a little bit of height, we could go for this. That's nice, although the color of the bird, I'm not really excited about. So I'm going to take the bird off, and I think I've got yellow, which matches a little bit on that table. Now, another thing we could do is put the bird on the edge of the table, but I'm going to go ahead and put the bird up here on top of the butterfly. And you can play around with it a little bit. You can even hang things from from wire, from fishing wire, from fishing line. So you can't really see the lines, but you can see the bird swinging back and forth. That would be another thing that you could do. Now, we aren't over decorated here, but we would only want to go with probably about one more item. So this is very cute here with the chair. So we could do that, but when you have a chair, it kind of begs the question, okay, who's sitting in the chair? Well, we could put a bird in the chair, but that's a little bit weird. So at least, right, not that unicorn is weird, but so what do I want? So would I want a shell? No, probably not. I think what would be nice is a few of these marbles in this corner just to give a little bit of action, and it brings the tone in, because action is another thing you want to create in your fairy garden. It can be perceived action. So when the eye hits this, it shines a little bit. When you water it, it's going to shine a little bit, so that creates some action. And you've got your story, the little fairies running to talk to her. So any more, probably about 3, 4, maybe 5 I'll put here. I like these white ones too because it brings in that white color tone. Okay, so now, once you're done, for maintenance, you do want to provide it with sufficient light. And so medium to bright light for this. You do want to water right after planting, even though the soil is moist. And you want to keep it moist but not soggy. You do want to pinch back on this. So when it starts to get a little rangy, you're going to pinch out an area, which is hard in these gloves, but you're going to pinch out a group of leaves, and then it will cause it to grow lower and mound more. And let's see, if you do need to add extra soil, if there's any holes, do that so you don't have any pockets, air pockets, but I felt this it feels pretty good. So I think that will do it. That'll do it for today. I feel like we're missing one more thing. Okay, I really feel like one more bird, and I really do like that bird on the table. So the bird's stopping to eat birdseed off the table. Okay, well, thank you for stopping by. Have fun gardening in the great indoors. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Happy gardening.